Alright you guys, welcome to another video. In this video I want to talk directly about time, because time is a precious thing and time is something that we don't get back. And because I spent a lot of time in my younger years and even some of my adulthood wasting time, I want to create a message to inspire you to really grasp the time that you have and use it wisely, because again, time is not something that you can get back, and time has this weird effect of, before you know it, you're close to 30, you're close to 40 or 50, and you look back and you realize that, wow, I could have done a lot more with my time. Now, from an astrological point of view, the main planet that rules time and the lessons learned from time is Saturn. And in many depictions in astrological symbolism, you will see Saturn depicted as a giant eating children. Now, at first glance, this may seem kind of grim or macabre or kind of frightening, but you really have to look a little bit closer at the symbolism to be able to extract the truth. Oftentimes, symbolism on the surface looks somewhat frightening or confusing and things like that, but it's not until you look into the symbolism that you learn that, okay, this symbolism is actually very valid. Saturn depicted as a giant eating children is symbolic of the fact that time will eat your youth, ladies and gentlemen. Time, you will not be young forever. You will get old and you will reap what you sow, and that's essentially, from an astrological perspective, Saturn encompasses many different energies, but one of the primary energies of Saturn is learning that you reap what you sow. Input equals output, and the amount of input that you put into something dictates what you receive back from it. So if you spend your years wasting time or doing things that have little to no value, you will reap what you sow, and you will learn the hard way. Now, I'm on the cusp of completing my Saturn return, and for those who don't know what a Saturn return is, basically when you are born, Saturn is in a particular position, and it takes about 27 and a half to about 30 years for Saturn to come back and do a complete cycle around, or it takes about 30 years, give or take, let's just put it that way, let's round up, for Saturn to come back and do a complete full circle and be in the exact same position that it was in when you were born. And in that period, that 30-year period, Saturn puts you through multiple tests and it tries to teach you things. Now, oftentimes we neglect or ignore the lessons of Saturn, especially when we're in our younger years, in our 20s and mid-20s and things like that, because we're so caught up in our youth, and if you don't take your time and use it wisely, Saturn will come around and teach you as it gets closer to its position that it was in when you were born, close to about 30 years old, 30 years, like I said. It will teach you that it'll make you feel certain things. The planets have a very interesting effect on our psyche, on our subconscious mind, on our conscious mind, on our emotions, you name it. And it will make you feel like you've wasted time, and it'll try to wake you up out of your sleep. It'll try to jar you out of your sleep. And many people on their Saturn return have good experiences. They're uplifted because they've done things that are beneficial. They've followed their life's path. They've done things that are nourishing, with their time and things like that. And some people are dragged down and kind of thrown into a cataclysm so that they can wake up, or hopefully wake up, because if you don't learn the lessons that Saturn's trying to teach you by age 30, it will start swinging back around again, and it won't be back into the same position that it was in your birth chart or your natal chart until about age 60. So every time Saturn comes around, it teaches us things. It can lift us up or drag us down. But again, you guys, the Saturn symbolism in the depictions of Saturn eating children is that time will indeed eat your youth. You will not be young forever. You will grow old. What are you doing with your time? Are you doing things with your time to the degree that when you look back, you can say, wow, I did something uplifting. I did something meaningful. I did something that was in alignment with my real purpose here on Earth. Because we do, if you look at an astrological birth chart, now the birth chart, ladies and gentlemen, is something that is rather complicated. In fact, it's highly complicated. If you look at a birth chart, chances are, if you've never looked at one before, or if you're not familiar with zodiacal glyphs and planetary glyphs and things of that nature, you'll look at it and go, this seems like some type of different language. And it is. It's a celestial language. It's a planetary language. It's so many different things. But if you look at a birth chart, ladies and gentlemen, you can learn a lot about what your purpose is here in life. Now, you'll have to forgive me, there was something I wanted to discuss, but I got off on a different subject with an ADHD moment, and now I forgot what I wanted to elaborate upon. But regardless, let's keep going. I wanted to mention that in a birth chart, you can learn a lot about what your weaknesses are, and a lot about what your strengths are. So a lot of people are confused in life, and they don't really know what their purpose is. But if you take a little bit of time and get your birth chart read, or have a birth chart done, and you can do them for free online. There's apps for smartphones. There's a number of different ways that you can extract or decipher your birth chart without a lot of knowledge, and you can do it for free. But you can learn a lot about what your purpose is here in life, what your strengths are again, and what your weaknesses are. And some people are just confused. We get thrown into this crazy world where there's all sorts of stresses, there's obligations. It can become really easy, you guys, is what the point I'm trying to get at. It can be really easy to get thrown off track and to forget that we have a mission here in life. We have a purpose here in life. We have things from previous lives that we need to continue learning and building upon in this life. So in your birth chart, you really want to look at your north and south node to kind of uncover what you're here to do. But there's so much more that can be said about that. I just wanted to kind of put that out there, that you really do need to look at your birth chart. Personally, from a birth chart perspective, I use what's known as the equal house system, and I'll make videos in the future about that. But you can go on astro.com, you can go on, the App Store on your iPhone or your Android device and find all sorts of different birth chart software and things like that, so that you can figure out where the planets were at the time where you were born, because these planets represent subconscious energies and things of that nature. There's so much more that can be said about the planets, but they have an effect on your psyche, on your subconscious mind, depending on where they were in your chart when you were born. And a lot of people say, oh, birth charts, that's just a bunch of hocus pocus. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at this with an unbiased eye, and you do a little bit of research, and you look at your birth chart with an open heart, you can really uncover some things that are pretty shocking. Oftentimes when people have their birth chart done and they read it and they look at it and they begin to understand what it all means, it's like looking at a mirror of your psyche. And there's a right and a wrong way to have a birth chart read. There's a right and a wrong way to input the information. So you really have to make sure that everything is accurate when you enter the information for your birth chart. But one thing I will say, ladies and gentlemen, is that, oftentimes it's like looking at a mirror. When I first had my birth chart done, I input the information incorrectly, and it was like, what is this? This makes no sense. And once I actually figured out the exact time I was born, and I knew to use the equal house system instead of some of the other systems that are used for astrology readings and whatnot, it was like, wow, this is crazy. This is like looking at myself. Some of these things are so accurate about what my driving factors are in relation to my desires and things like that. With the particular placement of my north node in a particular house in the astrological or in the birth chart, I'm not gonna rant too long, you guys. I want to keep this video short. All I'm saying is look into astrology. Astrology can help you learn a lot about yourself, and it can oftentimes help you learn about what your purpose is here in life, because so many people are unsure of what their purpose is, especially as more and more people begin to wake up and become health conscious and things like that. People are questioning things and going, wait, maybe I'm not here to work a 9-to-5 job every day. Maybe I'm here to help people get healthy. Maybe I'm here to start my own business and help other people. Maybe I'm an inspirational speaker. Maybe I'm an artist. Maybe I'm a musician. Maybe I need to, maybe my purpose in this lifetime is to create a clothing line. Whatever it is, you can find a lot about your purpose in your birth chart. But it's not like you just do your birth chart and look at it and go, oh, I got all the answers figured out. No, birth charts are like maps. They can help us navigate through life by helping us understand more about ourselves and our weaknesses and our strengths. But I wanted to bring that up in relationship to time, or in relation to time, ladies and gentlemen, because it's easy to waste time if you don't know what your purpose is. Once you know what your purpose is, and you believe it and you understand it, it makes following your purpose, following your true will very easy, because now you remember, you're like, okay, this is what I'm here for. But again, it can be very difficult to remain on track, ladies and gentlemen, in a crazy world. And that's why I'm bringing up the birth chart in relation to time, because there's a lot of distractions out here. There's a lot of things that you can get caught up in. You can get caught up in contracts that don't resonate with your will. You can get into friendships that do nothing to uplift you. You can get into relationships that don't uplift you and aren't in congruency with your true will. There's so many different traps and snares out here that can get you put into what I call contracts. And contracts are basically obligations that you make from a standpoint of ignorance or lack of information that keep you tied to things that are non-beneficial and actually drag you down instead of uplifting you. But again, the birth chart is one thing that you can use outside of all this insanity taking place out here. You can use it as a map to kind of sit down, learn about yourself, recalibrate your senses, recalibrate your emotional field, and really figure things out. It's like looking at your soul, so to speak, when you look at your birth chart. So in the future, I'll talk about exact ways to figure out your birth chart. There's so many different ways. There's multiple different systems of astrology. I've worked through a few different ones, a handful of them actually, and I think that a good majority of them are kind of inaccurate. So in the future, I'll talk about which ones I use, but to kind of put something out there, I'm currently using the equal house system. So, but again, you're going to need to know when you were born. For instance, I was born at 11:13 a.m. I'm not going to say the date or the year. Some things need to be kept personal, but realizing your purpose is the number one way to realize or to start using your time wisely. Otherwise, it's like you're lost, just wandering around. Once you realize your purpose, the flame inside your heart ignites, and you just get that creative genius moving through you through self-realization. I hope that makes sense. But again, you want to look at your north and south nodes, ladies and gentlemen. Once you do your birth chart, that says a lot about what you're here to do. But Saturn, you guys, Saturn, out of the 7 traditional planets, Saturn is the slowest moving planet. And because of that, you guys, it takes a long time to actually transit all the way back to where it was when we were born. And because it moves so slow, it's been, it has a correspondence or a relation to Father Time, or you reap what you sow. What you put in is the equivalent of what you get out. Saturn is also related to patience and hard work and restriction and balance. Saturn is a heavily misunderstood celestial body, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of hocus pocus out there about Saturn. A lot of people think Saturn is evil. Saturn is not evil. A lot of people, for some reason, think Mars and Saturn are the 2 most evil of the celestial kingdoms, and that's most likely because, a lot of the most evil corporations and things like that, secret societies and whatnot, try to tap into those particular energies, the Saturnalian energy and the Marsarian energy. And there's particular reasons for that. Mars is associated with forward movement. Its color is red. It has a handful of different correspondences, but it's directly linked to energy and movement and confidence and getting things done. It's been known by many as the warring planet. But in Saturn is about restriction, and its color is black, its number is 3, its metal is lead. These are just correspondences, which I will talk about in the near future. But, you know, regardless of all this, you guys, I just wanted to give you a message that use your time wisely. I wasted a lot of time in my teens, and I wasted a pretty damn good amount of time in my 20s, and it's something that I regret, and I don't want you to make the same mistake that I made, because you don't have to. Regardless of where you are in life, regardless of how old you are, regardless of what you're doing with your time, just take some time every day to calibrate and question what you've been clinging to and what you're holding on to, because oftentimes what we're holding on to are things that are holding us down, you guys. But also, if you're under 30 years old, look up Saturn returns in relation to astrology. You can learn a lot about your Saturn return. It teaches you certain things. Oftentimes people who are on the cusp of a Saturn return or in the process of a Saturn return, if they've been neglecting a particular thing in their life that they're supposed to be doing, for instance, say if someone was an artist, and for instance, let's say someone is an artist and they're like 26 years old and they've ignored their artistic side to try to pursue something else. Saturn wants you to follow the path in life that is true to your heart. It wants you to do what you were put here to do. So as you get closer to 30, you might be going through periods that are rather emotionally absolutely intense, where you're questioning what you've been doing up into this point. You might have a strong sense of, wow, I've been doing the wrong thing. I need to become an artist. I need to do what I know I'm here to do. Saturn has this effect of completely transforming your psyche if you're open to its lessons as you get closer to 30 years old, ladies and gentlemen. So the purpose of this message that I'm trying to dictate is to follow your heart, ladies and gentlemen. Follow your heart. Do what you came here to do. And if you're listening to this message right now, if you have access to the internet, if we have so many things at our fingertips right now that we can use for our own advancement and our own spiritual and physical, emotional, and mental evolution. You can uncover what your purpose is. You have to remember, you guys, in today's modern world, you have access to just handfuls of different ways of, for instance, deciphering your birth chart, also known as your natal chart. For instance, I have multiple apps on here that I can use to input data, and it'll output data that used to, 100 to 200 years ago, take massive amounts of intelligence and mathematics and weeks sometimes of study and things like that to even be able to figure out your birth chart. Nowadays, you can just get onto an iPhone or an Android device, take 2 minutes, type in your information if you know it, and bam, you are now given a set of information that used to, 100 to 200 years ago, be reserved to only the incredibly wealthy, the elite. So we live in a really interesting time, you guys. There's a lot of insanity out here. Sure, there's a lot of madness. Sure, a lot of the people I'm not trying to sound judgmental, but a lot of the people out here look like zombies. Sure, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but that doesn't mean that you have to swim around in that same energy. And in my opinion, most of the people out here that resemble zombies simply do so because they've been living a life that is not in alignment with their purpose. If you're doing things that aren't, if you ignore the lessons that you're supposed to learn here, if you don't advance in the ways that you're supposed to advance here in this dimension, then you start to resemble something or a creature that is not in alignment with its purpose. That means you're lost. And zombies, to me, resemble, the symbology at least, is lost souls. Just lost satellites drifting around. So, come back into your power, ladies and gentlemen. Take care of your health. Seize the moment. Seize the day. Seize the night. Carpe diem. Carpe noctem. There are so many things that you can do at a given moment. For instance, in a 1 hour period, if in a 1 hour period, if you're really truly serious about it, you can meditate and you can think and you can write things down and you can completely revamp your life. You can create a blueprint. You can create a plan for your future. So if you're interested in more information, please consider looking at the links below in the description box. I have a few different websites where you can gain more video content, hours and hours of video content. There's some support links if you're interested in supporting my cause or supporting my message or my mission financially. There's some options down below. And on the particular website where there's a link below, my Patreon, I have so many different videos on my Patreon page. I also talk about magic and the occult sciences and how they relate to astrology and whatnot. I talk about the law of attraction. The law of attraction and astrology and magic are intimately connected. Magic, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm not talking about pulling rabbits out of hats. Magic is the art and science of the law of attraction. There are tools magic is a tool that you use so that you can tap into your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is what the law of attraction is all about. The problem with the law of attraction here in 2018 and for the last 10 years is you have so many of these authors out here that sold all these books and got so many people excited about the law of attraction, but they never even explained the mechanics of how it works or how it even is related to the subconscious mind. So the law of attraction is an interesting subject because there's so much garbage out there on it. There's so much lame material that doesn't explain anything other than, oh, you just think about something and eventually it comes to your doorstep. No, it's not how it works. Thinking is hollow. Thinking without emotions gets you nothing, especially on the subconscious level, because in order to tap into the power of the subconscious mind, you need to steer your emotions, your imaginations, your emotions, your imaginations, your emotion, your imagination, your beliefs, and your thoughts with your will, and it all has to be enraptured in what's known as subjective thinking, thinking that is imbued with emotion. Anyone can tell themselves, oh, I'm a millionaire, or I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. Are you? You can often tell how someone feels based on how they say particular things in relation to how they feel. For instance, if I was going to say, man, if someone asked me, do you feel good, Brandon? Yeah, I feel good. Yeah, I feel good. Look at my body language. I don't feel good. You can tell that based on how I say it, the way I say it, and my body language. But if someone said, Brandon, do you feel good? And I said, I feel absolutely amazing. I feel incredible. That's a little bit different. So the law of attraction, a lot of the books out here want you to believe that, oh, your thoughts become your reality. That's true to some extent, but thoughts without emotion don't create any type of subconscious movement. And moving the subconscious and feeding the subconscious information is the key to this law of attraction stuff. But it's much more than just thoughts. It's using symbolism, and there's so many different ways to stimulate the subconscious mind. It is a fascinating subject unto itself. But to wrap this one up, you guys, just trying to give you guys a positive message here on Friday. Saturday, tomorrow, is the day of Saturn. Traditionally, there are 7 planets. Yes, there are more planets than 7, but traditionally, especially in most magical systems of, ceremonial high magic and sorcery, there are 7 main planets, 7 primary planets, and each planet rules a particular day. For instance, Monday is ruled by Luna, the moon. Tuesday is ruled by Mars. Wednesday, I believe, is ruled by Mercury. Thursday, I believe, is ruled by Venus. Friday by Jupiter. Saturday by Saturday is ruled by Saturn. Sunday is ruled by the Sun. Even though the Sun and the Moon aren't traditionally planets, we'll get into it in the future. The planets have a direct effect on our subconscious mind, and if you really want to tap into learning the lessons from the planets, you can start using the days of the planet, each planet, to really tap into your creativity. For instance, if you wanted to tap into Saturn and become in alignment with Saturn, you can do rituals and burn incense and give offerings to Saturn on Saturday, because Saturday rules Saturn. And inside the day of Saturday, there's even a particular hour that in Saturday where you can there's a particular hour that's actually ruled by Saturn on the day of Saturn, which is Saturday. So there's all sorts of different things you can do to align yourself with the energies of the planets, and these are basically just like, they're filing cabinets for particular energies that we can invoke into our lives to create change. Especially considering how powerful the idea of planets are to the subconscious mind. So there's probably going to be some flat earthers and people out here that have problems with astrology. I don't care. I know the validity of it. I know the power of the symbolism in astrology, especially with, like, you know, the hermetic arts, the magical arts, the occult sciences. So it is what it is. Take advantage of your time, ladies and gentlemen. It's something that you cannot get back. Oftentimes people do not realize how precious time is until it's too late. And that's the goal of this message, is to inspire you to not have to experience that type of traumatic experience. Seeing your life flash before your eyes, or realizing that, wow, I wasted a lot of time, what did I do with my life, when you have no time to backpedal, is very traumatic. It leads to depression, it leads to emotional issues, and many people pass away with that feeling in their heart that they didn't do what they were put here to do. So if you're young, if you still have your youth, regardless of how old you are, you can change. If you're watching this video, you have the power to change on some level. It starts in the mind and the emotions. And from that, you can restructure your life and create something physical within yourself and outside of yourself. You can change the world. What are you waiting for? You can change the world, ladies and gentlemen. Look at your birth chart. Do some research. Go to the library. Get some books on astrology. Learn about yourself. Create your own reality. Leave a mark on the world. Change the world. Your actions are kind of like throwing a rock into a river. It hits the water and it ripples out and affects the life around it. It affects the entire body of water. Peace be with you all.